Hi, I'm MelanieMarshall, and I'm an adaptability and team development expert. And I'm about to be on the Online ProsperityShow and can't wait for it because in this we're going to be talking about adaptive leadership, the importance of systems thinking and being in organisations, and how you can create an excellent organisation that thrives.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show, your ultimate destination for exclusive insights into the journeys of remarkable individuals. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and today we've got a guest whose story embodies adaptability, resilience, and excellence. Joining us is MelanieMarshall, a team development and change expert, author, and advocate for adaptive leadership. With over 25 years of experience across diverse industries, including defense, healthcare, IT, and more, Melanie has mastered the art of guiding teams to adapt and excel in ever-changing environments. Now, Melanie, how are you doing today?
Good, thank you, Prosper. I've listened to a few of your episodes and I'm really pleased to be here because I love the conversations that you have with people. And I've got to say I'm a little bit overwhelmed because I don't think of myself as particularly incredible or amazing. So you've pumped me up a fair bit. And as far as mastery goes, I'm still working on it because the problem with aiming for mastery is that you never quite get there. So it's a work in progress for sure. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Well, the pleasure is all mine. I was actually going to start off with your ambition in boxing, because that is something that I just came across. And apparently you want to be the best boxer there is. I mean, from leading teams, now you're throwing jabs. It just seems like you're always ready to pack a punch. So, yeah, how did this passion come about?
Well, I want to be the best boxer that I can be. I don't know whether I want to be the best boxer ever because there's so many really amazing ones out there. And boxing is more for myself than anything else. But it came about just over a year ago now, almost about a year and a half ago. My son had an altercation at school which scared him. He got caught into a headlock. It was a typical teenage boy mucking around that then got a little bit too far. Anyway, he became quite scared and frightened, and when he came home, I could see that something wasn't quite right. And I said, mate, what has happened? And he explained the scenario, and he said, look, Mum, I got caught into a headlock at school. I didn't know how to get out of it, and I thought I was going to die. And although that sounds like a very escalated, over-engineered version of events, that's what my son felt in that moment. So I made a few phone calls and I said, I never want you to feel like that again. I'm going to make some calls, and then the first person who I speak to who can teach you how to get out of those scenarios as well as defend yourself if needed, that's what we're going to do. We're going to get you some one-on-one coaching for that. So I contacted Andy Stanway. He's a mixed martial arts fighter, an incredibly good one, and founder of Iron Combat. And talking to Andy was brilliant. And straight away, like the next day, he got Hayden in, showed him a few moves, showed him how to get out of headlocks, throw somebody of my weight. So I was kind of like the size of the bully at the time. So it was handy that Hayden was able to get out of my clinches. And from then we started, Hayden started to do some boxing. He didn't want to do the mixed martial arts, but he liked the boxing component. A couple of months in, Hayden asked if Andy could also train me so that Hayden and I would then train and box together. So that's where it all sort of started. It wasn't about me, it was about my son. And it wasn't until he said, hey, Mum, can Mum get on the mats with me and we can spar and box together, that that sort of really started to ignite something within me. Hayden no longer boxes, but I continued it on. So I now get coaching one-on-one every week with Andy, who totally blows my mind every session, because not only do you have to be physically fit, really have some stamina, but it's the mindset and the mental game that you have to have in order to be able to function and not get hit. It's incredible. It's like no other sport I've played. So so that's kind of what got me into my love of boxing. So now I study a lot of different boxes. Andy, as I said, is brilliant, and he's constantly pushing me with more complex combinations and moves each week. And maybe I'll compete one day in the Masters, maybe not, I don't know. But for now, I'm just really enjoying the adaptability and the challenge of it all. And it definitely fits with how I tend to apply myself in the workplace as well.
Absolutely. I like, and thank you so much for, letting us in on that tidbit of information about yourself. I mean, not only were you solving a problem that emanated because of, a system that wasn't working and functioning, which i.e. is the protection of your own son, but now you gotten yourself involved into the whole process and everything else. Now, you said you've been studying a few boxers. Have you ever heard of the statement from Tyson that everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth? Does that apply?
Yeah, and I've got to say that the first person that punched me in the mouth was my son. So I know the feeling of that, where you it's one thing to hit the bags and to be training hard, but then as soon as you start to go into a sparring kind of scenario where the conditions aren't set, there's no real rehearsed moves, you've just got to work with what you've got when it comes at you. You go from feeling really amazing to feeling like a total Gumby who doesn't know how to box, because all of a sudden you're trying to compete against somebody else. But yeah, Hayden, my son, has definitely punched me in the face, and I definitely know what it is like to go, yep, okay, that plan is out the door. How do I now create something a little bit different that's going to work?
Absolutely. I appreciate that a lot. Now, we're looking at your child's upbringing, obviously, with supportive parents that are stepping in and doing what they can in order for the safety and also just the psychological safety, of your kid there. Would you parallel this to the way you would have grown up yourself? Or is this something that may have just come about as a result of being a mum?
Yeah, look, I grew up in a really lovely family. I was very blessed in that regard. Mum and dad were always quite supportive. We had quite a good, strong faith as well, which really built a good, firm foundation of morals and ethics, and that duty of care and service for other people. So part of how I grew up, and part of that nurturing came from my own family upbringing. Certainly, though, as a parent and as a parent of both a daughter and a son, the dynamics are different when you're a parent yourself. You want to go in and fight the fight for them, but ultimately you can't. And I think that's probably one of the most important lessons that you learn. And I see this, with other parents. I also see this in the workplace, where some people have this mothering or fathering type attitude to things, which if you're constantly running in and saving people, you're not necessarily developing their skills. So one of the things that my daughter said to me when she was very young, when you go in and they're like those parent teacher days, and the kids have these things up on the wall about your favourite food, about your family, and what you like about your parents, or all of those sorts of things, like those little about me things that kids do. Well, here I was, Hayley, this is my daughter, she must have been about 8 at the time. 8, yeah, maybe around 8 at the time. And what she loved most about me, apparently, is tough love. is that I gave her tough love. And it was a real eye-opener for me, because for my 8-year-old daughter to say that that was the most powerful and respected quality in me, I was like it really blew me away, because I think there are times as a parent where you're constantly struggling with parent guilt of what you think you could do or should do, then what you're not doing. Like you're really constantly assessing and reassessing your style of parenting, because ultimately you want to make sure that your kids have the best possible chance to be the best possible versions of themselves. And you're really growing adults. And as an adult myself, I don't quite feel like I've ever really quite grown up. I'm still trying to figure out who I want to be in the world, which can change from month to month, year to year, depending on the different experiences that I get. But certainly, tough love for yourself as well as for others, I think that's a pretty important trait to have. So I kind of think about parenting and also the way that I operate within a workplace. It's equal measures of toughness and love at the same time, because that's how you grow and develop capability and grow other leaders.
I think I think that's an accomplishment in and of itself. If your kids actually realize and respect that what mom is doing is literally growing us up into people that, will be to and have a happier existence. Because some people are just now a little bit too fragile, so much that it's borderline even, it could just ruin their own relationships just because they can't face somebody speaking back at them or something of that nature. And it's just one of those things. And at 8, if the kids can then get to realize that this is mom and she's just being herself so that we too can be that, I think that's remarkable. But this tough love, obviously, this is something that you would have had to cultivate, or would you say your being in the military would have maybe made this a possibility in order for you to be able to, showcase this to your loved ones or the ones near you?
Yeah, look, I think, I've been out longer than I was in now. So I was in the Air Force for 10 years, and I was there from 1994 to 2004. So I've been out for quite some period of time now, but certainly the level of discipline within the military that I learned, particularly back then, I can't speak for the modern military now, but certainly when I was serving, discipline was everything. Discipline, teamwork, really striving for a goal together was really very pivotal. And if one of you failed, you all failed. And so that level of connection and teamwork and camaraderie, it gets drilled into you pretty hard. And I think I've always had that level of discipline and teamwork, because I've always played team sports ever since I could stand and remember. But certainly the military hardwired it from the perspective of how do you bring that part of team connectedness and striving for a goal, by testing and adjusting. That was certainly something that I think the military brought out and hardwired in. And although my style is probably a little bit different now, because it's not all command and control, and you can't behave as you would in the military as you would in a civilian world. But certainly it's about having that level of adaptability to be able to blend with the context and the environment. So was there a lot of tough love in that regard? I'd say there was probably more tough than love in the military. But then when you get out into the real world, you sort of go, oh, okay, all right, I've got to just sort of soften a few things around the edges. I can still keep the discipline and the toughness, but there's a way that you've got to find how to really connect with people on a bit more of a deeper level, ones who may not be wired the same way.
Obviously, thank you so much for your service, but And in looking at that, I mean, you spent, what was it, 10 years in the military. Um, you did say it was different back then and now. Now, would what you would have learned in the military, especially the leadership and obviously the discipline, camaraderie, and stuff like that, be also influencing the way you are now approaching corporate leadership, particularly fostering adaptability and also that tough love that has to happen, when conversations have to be made or done?
Yeah, it's definitely a contributing factor. I think where things really shifted for me when I started working in the public hospital system. When I started working in hospitals, that's when the systems thinking brain kicked into play, because military, it's a lot about process, it's a lot about drilling and automated behaviour to do things. In the hospital, you've still got a lot of that discipline and those systems, but the systems are far more complex and complicated. In a hospital, every day that somebody has a bad day could result in a death. And that's something that I think at times people, talk about the military, but when you look at a living and breathing hospital system and the people involved in that every single day, I guess the weighting of the importance of leadership, decision making, and the way that teams work together becomes very heightened. And it becomes very clear when there's a chink in the armour or something's not quite right or it's preventing flow. So, yes, the military was useful in one regard. Hospitals taught me complexity on a whole other level. And then from there, taking that leadership discipline and systems thinking into practice then helped prime my ability to look at large scale transformation programs across multiple agencies or companies or industries. Because once you start, it's a little bit like The Matrix, the movie The Matrix. Once you see The Matrix, it then becomes easy.
Yeah.
Well, regardless of the industry, there are certain patterns and behaviours that we all tend to follow. And when those things aren't working together or well, that's when people behave badly, services don't get delivered, and customers aren't happy. So when you start to understand what the system is and how it works, it's very easy then to be able to, I guess, tweak or tune up things around the edges. And that's what led to a friend of mine calling me because I was explaining what I did with him one day. I said, "Oh, it's really hard. I know," and this is another Andy. I know too many Andys in my life, but Andy Cooley, he's the founder of Story and Brand, so an exceptionally good company working with businesses and large-scale companies to determine what their brand offer is, what their value is to the market, and then how they can promote their services. And I had a particular week where I couldn't quite package who I was or what I provided for people. I couldn't package my value, right? And he said, "Oh, talk me through what you do." And I was talking through different things, and he said, "Well, it actually sounds like you're more like a business mechanic where you go in, you diagnose what's happening within a particular system of the business, and then you come in with your tools, you do a few tune-ups, and then it's working really, really well, and people can drive away quite happily." And the penny dropped. I'm like, yeah, I probably am a little bit more like that. I think in terms of if a company was a car, the car would be the people, the process, and the technology all kind of at the top of the car. But underneath the hood, you've got the mechanics, you've got the strategy and the plans, you've got the governance and the organisation, you've got the processes, you've got the people and skills, you've got the data, the tools and the tech, and then you've got quality and performance. And those 6 mechanisms all need to be working in harmony for a really smooth ride. And that essentially to me is organisational culture. and employee experience. So if you understand the system and the mechanics, the way that people work together can be really quite exceptional. You don't have to do it all at once. You just have to tune up a few little things every now and then to make it smooth, make it workable.
Mm, absolutely. I quite like that, because some of us just go into a car, put the key on, don't even know and understand the mechanisms. And especially these days where you literally don't even need to have the key fob on. It's just keyless entry. You just push to start. For all those things to happen, I don't know, maybe you would also remember, maybe back in the military, but you were flying planes in the Air Force, but, you used to have a stick shift, to actually have to put the car in gear. That was part of what we were doing. These days, you just sit there and it takes you wherever you want to go. And it's just so.
I know. Well, you're so right. Like you push buttons now in cars and keyless entry. Those sorts of things, I think we take it for granted because when there's so much automation happening now, like what happens if you push the button and it doesn't work? If you don't understand the mechanics underneath it, it makes it very hard, particularly if you're responsible for that car. You're the executive, you're the leader responsible for that, the functioning of that. And if you don't understand what's under the hood or how to sort of tweak it and fix it, well, you become quite stuck very quickly, and there's no good talking about those things. You actually have to know how to get in and get those sorts of things sorted because, the automation, pushing buttons, things like that, they only work if the mechanics underneath are in sync and integrated.
Which brings me to something that, because with everything that you have done and everything that you've told me so far, whenever there's a situation or a problem, there's a person for it. There's that knowing that somebody can help you do it cheaper, better, faster. And you simply go to that person and, have them executed for you, like the Andes that you've brought about so far. There was the first Andy that punches people in the face, and then there's another Andy that helps people formulate their brand and stuff like that. And I kind of feel like that's the kind of person that you also have become for other people, because in your bio you mentioned that you love working with companies that are committed to excellence, and you liken your role to that of a personal trainer, because a personal trainer will come in, show you what button to push and why you're pushing that button. Because if you don't know why you're pushing that button, you'll probably just be sitting there and staring, not knowing what the next logical step would be. So how do you motivate teams to then achieve this peak performance, especially when they face sometimes resistance to change and just people that are not working alongside each other?
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned the personal training reference, because like many years ago, when I left the Air Force, I actually became a personal trainer. That was my first civilian job. After I left the military, I became a personal trainer and a bit of a life coach. And then I realised that my passion wasn't paying the bills, and that's when I then got into org development, org performance. But as far as helping people understand, it comes back down to what's in it for them. Because you can hire an expert in a field, but if you're not prepared to listen or do the work, it's pretty pointless. And at the same time, it's a job as an expert. And I'm always a little bit funny with the term expert around myself, because I think we all have our own brilliance and our own expertise. My job, I see it more as about tapping into that. So I'm very good at asking questions to understand what the pain points are for people. So firstly, it always starts with, what is it that you want to achieve? What's the outcome that you want? Why is that so important to you? And how prepared are you to do the work to get there? Because anything worth achieving is going to take a little bit of sacrifice. It's not going to be comfortable, because if it was comfortable, it's certainly not going to be any kind of an improvement, and it's definitely not going to involve or result in any transformation? And then what have you got now that's already working for you that we can leverage? So what are your strengths? How can we leverage those into making the new things that we're going to have to do slightly less uncomfortable? And I think that's the key. It's not about seeing a pain point or seeing friction and then going, we're just going to remove it. It's all going to be fantastic. I think it's really important to be real, to say, well, we're in this period of pain for a reason, or there's something in the business that isn't working for a reason. Let's look at what the root cause is, but also what's the work that you're going to have to do to get out of it. Because if you're not realistic about that, and if you're not disciplined to do the work, well, we're both wasting our time. Because transformation, whether it be of yourself as a leader, whether it be of a team or of a business, it's all internal. You have to do the work yourself. You can hire an expert, but if you don't do the work, you're not going to get the benefit. You can hire a personal trainer. They will write you an amazing program. They will tell you what to eat, when to move, how to move. But if you don't rock up to the gym and do those sessions and put in the effort, you're not going to get the rock star body come summer. So it's the same notion in anything. So when I work with teams, I really look at, where are you now? Where do you want to be? And then how can we incrementally increase your capability and your capacity and your confidence to gradually get to that point over time? Because it's not going to happen overnight. And I'm always very truthful and honest about that. In fact, I've lost jobs, I've lost work because I've been truthful about those sorts of things. And I'm all right with that, because I think integrity is number one. And there's no point pretending that somebody or something is going to work if it's not. But you can definitely find, well, where are people at now, and then how do we get there together? And that's very much a co-design type of approach to solving a problem, as opposed to, I'm the expert, I've got all the answers and I'm going to tell you this. The best experts that I've hired, so my two Andys, for example, they looked at you, well, where are you at now, Melanie? What can you do? And they looked and they analysed me and they watched me, and then they said, well, from there, this is really good, let's build on it over time. So they never forced development when I wasn't ready. They always were in a position where they made me a little bit uncomfortable, but that's the thing that helped me grow. So I think that's a really important thing to recognise, is that there always has to be an element of discomfort to grow. But when you've got a guide next to you who understands the mechanics, understands the process, and also understands the emotions that you're going to feel on the roller coaster along the way and can ride along with you, that's the power of having a really great person or a partner by your side that will help you hit those new targets and goals that you've got.
Like how you've sort of unlocked a level of authenticity that, like you said, if something is not well suited or it's not aligning to the journey that you're on, you are more than happy to let it go. And looking at your track record, you've had major career shifts, 13 to be precise, and this has been across 9 different industries, and this has happened in the last 30 or so years. What I see with all of that is somebody who's picked up a lot of medals of honor, knows what works in certain industries, and who knows what is not, suiting. Because how many people are able to say they've been able to jump out of a perfectly functional airplane, and still be able to come back and be punched in the mouth and be the person that's telling you, I want to be your personal your personal development car mechanic for the work that you're doing. So my question here is, how have these experiences shaped your approach to adaptability as we see it right now?
I would say that it's been less uncomfortable with the uncertainty and accepting that uncertainty is part of the journey. It's part of the process. And when it comes to being adaptive, that is a superpower because you don't quite know what's going to happen next. You've got a feel for it. You can pick patterns. You can, I guess, fortune tell or crystal ball things to a certain degree, but there are always going to be different contexts, different people, different starting points of where a team are at. And you've got to be sort of flexible and open to that as opposed to dogmatic in how you approach things. And I think when you're more adaptive in that regard and you realize that there's always an element of uncertainty and that's part of the process, it takes the pressure off a lot because this need for everything to be certain, it's just not a realistic expectation. So understanding that it is going to be a little bit of an emotional roller coaster while you're going through that for you as well as for the team, but being transparent and being able to talk through what people are feeling and what they need to feel a little bit more in control is vital. So I work with a lot of clients where you might have, well, you'll hear in organisations, the team aren't on the same page. It's a common thing that everybody says. They're not on the same page. And the reason why they're not on the same page is that all of our experiences are slightly different. So I might talk to a team and they'll be really inspired and be like, yeah, we want to improve all of these different things. We can see that there are opportunities. But then I might talk to the executive team and they'll be very reactive. They'll be like, no, we're stuck in the day-to-day operations of putting out spot fires. We're getting dragged into operational things and we haven't had time to think about our big picture strategy around how we're going to set ourselves up because we're running so fast at the moment that it's not sustainable. And other times I might talk to the CEOs or the executives who are really inspired and pushing really hard. But then you'll go and talk to the team and you'll say, well, what's your current experience of working here right now? And they'll say, we can't keep up. There are all of these changes and programs and projects that are all trying to improve the way that we work, but we are struggling to just manage what we're doing on a day-to-day basis, let alone be leaning in and creating all of these new things. So really understanding where people are at emotionally, but also why are they at that? Why are they in that space? What are some of the things that they're doing each day that are making work difficult for them to deliver? And looking at that first before you start loading on new things, that in itself is very powerful. And that's what being adaptive is. It's not about doing this big, major, massive improvement or doing everything all at once. It's looking at the little things and being able to iteratively change them just bit by bit so that you can get that flow or get that performance going all the way through the team. And it makes it far more realistic when those improvements are team-led. They come from the team's ideas. They're the ones that experience the issues. They're also the ones that generally know how to fix them. Quite often, they're just not given the opportunity or the capacity or space to be able to implement some of the things that they'd like to do differently.
And from what you're saying, yes, they might be coming from different, points of view and walks of life, and obviously different motivations based on the hierarchy within the business or what position they hold, and what is important for their bottom line. But for them to be harmonious together, do you think trust is essential, or can people just work in whichever way they can, even though there's difference of opinion or whatever it is? But if they have that single pillar that holds the whole business together, it might actually, be pivotal to the transformation of the team's, performance.
Yeah, look, trust is absolutely foundational. It's funny that you say that because that was the first book that I wrote. So I wrote a book on trust and I even called it The Foundation of Healthy Organisations and Teams. Trust is one of those funny words where if people say it often enough, they think that it's just going to magically happen, and it doesn't. The trust is something that you have to give before you can actually receive it. And that's also another thing that people find really unusual. I've seen so many bright, talented people who are hired by companies who then aren't trusted to do the work. And what it does is there are two things that people want. We want connection and we want purpose. When we've got those things, everything else seems to just be a really nice, easy, beautiful place to be. But being purposeful requires somebody to recognize that you've got some strengths, as well as to give you the freedom to be able to go and do and use those strengths to the best of your ability. And that level of trust is definitely where it starts. When I'm doing workshops on this with people, whether they're executives, whether they're team members, whether they're new to an organisation, there's an activity that I do where we talk about trust a lot, and they say, oh, you know, how do I make somebody trust me? And I was like, well, you can't. You cannot make somebody trust you. It's their decision whether or not they're going to trust you or not. But let's play a game and let's see, what would it take for me to be able to get your trust? Because people are often thinking that, you know, trust has to be earned. So I was like, okay, well, let's play that game. I want you to give me all of the criteria or the things that I have to do in order to earn your trust. And then the rules come out thick and fast. I'm usually riding at 100 miles an hour trying to capture all of the things that I have to do that people say, oh, well, you have to do this and this and this. And quite often there could be a list of anything between 10, 15, sometimes even 20 things that I will have to do in order to earn their trust. And then when we look at the list, I say, okay, this is a really great solid list. Is everybody happy with it? Has it ticked all the boxes that if all of these things are done, that I will be a trustworthy person in your eyes? And they're like, yeah, that's great. And they're all quite proud of this list that they've created, this criteria for trust. So then I say, well, of everything in this on that list, how many of you do all of those things all the time in all circumstances? Nobody ever puts up their hand. Nobody. And there's deathly silence, because we all realise that we're human. We make mistakes. We let people down. Regardless of how well intended we are, we're not perfect. And if we have all of this criteria on other people that we can't even live up to ourselves, how could we possibly create an environment of trust? So from there, we then break it down. We think, okay, well, what would make it more helpful? What would be more useful or more realistic in order to be able to trust yourself, but also to be able to trust somebody else? And then they often come up with a couple of other more realistic things, like valuing other people's experience, recognizing that there are multiple perspectives on a scenario or a problem, allowing people to tell their story and to really listen to understand, looking at things around what the facts are and then really what our emotions and our thoughts are before making a decision, working together through a problem. All of those things are really the basics around how we build trust, and it's also how we build great teams. But you can't build a team as a leader on your own, and you definitely can't force anybody to trust you, regardless of your position or how much power you think you have, because it's an individual decision that you can't control. So for teams, for organisations, for businesses, it's about who are the people that you need to influence, who are the people who are going to be involved in delivering services, and then what are their perspectives around how you can all win together as a team. And when you understand how to unpack that, regardless of the challenges, regardless of the different things that come in and create noise, things become far more simple than what we tend to make them.
I quite like that, because in a word, what you're just talking about is being able to be adaptable. I mean, like you say, you can't, leaders can't do this by themselves. In my culture, we've got a statement, Melanie: if you want to go far, you go alone, but if you want to go further, you go together. And that is just something that means you're gonna have to be listening to people's perspectives, where they're coming from, how they deal with things. And once you've got all of that into some sort of a nice big pot, and then that really makes the environment a good pot. From what you're saying, being adaptive should actually be a superpower, right?
Yeah.
From that, so how can people then cultivate this adaptability in their personal and professional lives? Because it doesn't seem like something that just comes easily to a lot of people.
Yeah, well, I look at it being I've got a model around adaptive leadership, and it follows three key things. So if you think of having a three-legged stool, if one of the legs is a bit wonky, it's you can't sit on it all, or it's not functional. So in terms of adaptive leadership, it starts with you, but it's not all about you. And there are three things that we have to master. And when I say this, it's a constant effort. You're never going to ever quite get there, but it's the strive for mastery in these three things. And the first one is presence. So this is your sense of self-worth, and it's the energy that you bring. It's the energy that you bring, it's the energy that you give in a way that people are going to be attracted to that. The second one is influence. So what type of influence are you hoping to have? How can that be positive? How can it be a force for good? And then the third one is impact. What is the impact that you're looking to achieve? Not just for yourself, but for and with others. So for me, adaptability requires presence, influence, and impact. And in the intersections of those three things, or the glue that holds that together, is your ability to be able to master your emotions, your thinking, and your behaviours. So if you can focus on being a master in those three things, and then enable or support others in doing the same, you're going to build not only your own authority and confidence as a leader, but you're also going to be growing more leaders as part of that process.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, if somebody's watching this and they're thinking to themselves, "Wow, this is a lot to take in and a lot to sort of have an understanding around," what would be the one thing that they can do, first of all, maybe to get a hold of you, or they can learn from you some of these things in order to incorporate this into their organizations?
Well, I do have firstly and foremostly, I am very busy right now writing a book. So I am writing a book on adaptive excellence. And this is really about leaders and teams can optimize for performance and outcomes. So that's very much, it pulls together all of the things that we've talked about today: leadership, decisions, as well as delivery. And it's more than just a systems thinking view, it's a systems being and doing view. The other way to contact me or to get involved is on my website, MelanieMarshall.com.au. I do write recent blog posts, although I haven't of late because I've been focused on the book, but I will get back onto that eventually. Or contact me via LinkedIn.
Absolutely. I'll make sure all those links are in the show notes below so that people can actually obviously find their way. And hopefully they're not going to be coming at a time when you're writing a book and then, just coming and disturbing you. But you have warned us that you do know how to throw a punch, right? So if people come in unannounced, they should come ready, for whatever comes to them. But Melanie, I can't thank you enough for the time that we spent on the call. Although, you've given us, a lot. I mean, your life story, your experience, and just you as a person, and you leave so much, for people to learn from. But I don't know if you noticed that along the way, you actually committed the ultimate online prosperity show crime.
Oh, what was that?
Well, you did mention you're writing a book, and you didn't, say that you were going to come and launch it back on the Online Prosperity Show. So you're going to have to make right on that.
Yes, I would definitely love to launch my book on your show. That would be it would be an absolute honor, Prosper, and I'd be very, very grateful. So the the mission is to have that book out and published before the end of the year. My ultimate goal is to get my book into an airport. So I'm going to need a commercial publisher to help me with that. But that's the goal. So certainly, when that book is out, I'll be knocking on your door, and I'd love to talk
Yeah,
about the book and send you a copy for sure.
not a problem. You see, that was a bit of tough love on my part. You know what I mean? You just don't promise that stuff and then don't say, I'm going to come and showcase to you and deliver. So I can't thank you enough.
Now I've outed myself.
Fantastic. It gives us something to look forward to. And I mean, thank you for sharing your incredible journey and insights with us today. I mean, like I've already said, your experiences alone just remind us of the power, first of all, of adaptability and also trust in achieving excellence. All those things are very good ingredients in order for us to have either businesses that are profitable and enjoyable or just a happier existence. And it just really showcases that the journey that you have taken has receipts, and I'm so glad we got to experience that today.
Thank you so much, Prosper, and thank you for listening. I've really had a good time talking to you. Take care.
Absolutely. And for those that are watching right now, if you found value in today's episode, please share it with somebody who might benefit from Melanie's insights. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to the Online Prosperity Show for more inspiring content. And as you have heard, Melanie is going to be coming back on the show to showcase her new book. And I personally can't wait because with what she has just proven to us, we definitely need adaptability as a superpower, because the world we're jumping into right now, so many of us are actually overqualified for a world that no longer exists. So join us next time as we explore ideas that could lead to a happier existence. Until next time, keep adapting and excelling. Bye for now.